I don't know.
All right, thanks for hopping on the Code Review Weekly Workshop. And we're talking about code review. Uh, let's jump into it. I'm going to share my screen. I had a thing. Um, I've had a lot of code reviews assigned to me the more
Same.
recent days. Um, this kind of thing comes up all the time. Um, maybe like maybe like once a week, uh, where we're doing a thing. But it seems like, oh, there's a whole uh utility that could really make this easier that we're not aware of. And not surprisingly, because the utilities at GitLab, it's not clear like where they are and what they do and how to find them. Uh so I wanted to share what was going on beforehand. I want to share the utility. And then I had a question about it. To share what was going on beforehand. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out maybe if I do something like this, like going from version 3 to version no. How do I do this? Maybe compare. All right, master and version 4. Let's go. Sure. Yeah. That'll do it. Okay. So there was a lot of logic around. So looking at what's going on here, took me a little bit to figure out the intent, but some things stick out to me like and and then I see comma separate list and I see, oh, this is a whole bunch of logic for like based on how many code owners there are. Do we show just one? Do we show, Alice, Alice and Bob, Alice, comma, Bob and Charlie, and like that whole thing? And I just happened to run into this problem many, many years ago. And I was like, we got to solve this once and for all. We're creating a utility for this so that we could just reuse it and not have to redo this logic all the time. So I happen to know in the back of my head there was a utility for doing this um, with strings called to noun series text. That's kind of a weird name now that I think about it. But you pass in an array and it will know like, and it does the whole translation stuff for you too. So let me open up the project real fast. I think I put it in this weird file called grammar. But like, see, it all of these need to kind of be
Yeah.
translated too, because
Yeah.
in different zones, that's gonna be different. Um, so here's the interesting way that we can have this in the template without doing it this way. Uh, we can call to noun series text, but then for each one of the items we were looping over, we are going to pass in some sprint f parameters.
Mhm.
So if I have 3 code owners, I'm going to end up with 3 of these link start, link ends, but the content is going to be the index of the one. And so down here in the component, we have a really cool component for sprintf where I can then pass in slots that match up with the names of those link start, link ends. And this content was the index. So I can create a link for each one of these, but I don't have to do anything with commas or ands or anything like that here because that's encapsulated in that reusable utility. So thankfully there's something that already existed here, but I realized like it was hard to find.
How
And
would you know? 'Cause you would have to know what you don't know, which is what
yeah,
to search for.
exactly.
Um,
So yeah, sometimes reviewing things, like there's might be a way to do it.
Mm.
The downside is finding that. This was called two noun series text. I realize that's no one's gonna think, oh, I need a noun series here.
Yeah, I wonder, like, sometimes when I'm looking for how to do something, if I happen to catch the right, like, search thing in my IDE, I might come across the helper. But
Yeah.
do you all have Rubocop for front end?
Yeah. But not Rubocop, but
But like a
that's what ESLint
Rubocop,
is.
like, okay. Um, I wonder if that's something that could be like a linter. I don't know how easy it would be to write rules that would catch, like, someone is trying to do this, because
Yeah.
it seems like there's like a million different ways to write it in
Right.
Vue. Um, that's a really hard problem to solve. How do you make sure that people are aware of our
Yeah.
libraries and utilities? You know, the backend has like a very small page with a few of them listed out, but I know it's not all of them, you know.
Where is that? Do you actually have that on hand?
I just know if you look for the override utility, it has a page and there's maybe one more in there.
So if I look, if
There's
I
a GitLab utilities page. Yeah, it's a really small page. Yep, that's it.
that
But
seems
it does
cool.
have, that's how I learned about override. Um,
Yeah, it seems cool.
but I don't know how scalable it is to keep adding to this as you add things. But you
Yeah.
know, if it's like big enough, if you see it continue to be like
Yeah.
happening, I did learn about override through looking at that. But yeah, I don't know.
So like there is a way through like JS doc
Mhm.
can we can like document the function through the comment following a um following something here. Man, you see, this is 5 years ago. That's this, and this is the last time I
Yeah.
used it. I knew in the back of my head 5 years ago. Oh, I know I've done this before. That's so wow. I can't believe it was 5 years ago. I thought it was just a couple of years ago. Um, I do think we're gonna need. I think that we need something like this.
Yeah.
But here's my perspective on it. Is one, I can look at what we were doing, and before, like we were just tweaking one of these conditions and something so that it was more correct.
So it already existed.
Yes. Well, so
Like,
the utility or the old
no, like the code that was being changed was
right,
already not using the utility.
right. And
They
so
just
this was
happened to be
just
lucky enough to get you as a reviewer that knew about the utility.
yeah, so this was just
Yeah.
tweaking it a little bit. Uh and then I come in, I'm like, okay, we wouldn't have to fix this if we just
And
use something that's already tested specifically for this thing. The so the one of the takeaways just like with code review is those are opportunities for knowledge sharing, and
yep.
sometimes the knowledge needs to be shared broader than the immediate context, but it's like, oh yeah, we can solve all the things and make it more maintainable and stuff in one go with this, let's do it.
Mhm.
um but that knowledge sharing has like, I do feel like it has an exponential effect of like, so just bringing it up and having other people become aware of utilities.
It's like spreading, because now
Yes.
when this author reviews code, they're going to be like, I know about this utility that I just used, and then it'll continue.
Right. So, but that's clearly not like a perfect system, but I know like that's helps. Um, but I do think a page like this is super helpful. So I was thinking about this, and I'm inspired by the Lodash docs. So we use Lodash all the time, and it's this grab bag of all sorts of random utility functions for, and I think I'll use this for like, I need something with like keys and I'm just able to search for like the whole thing. That's like, I
Yeah, I
see
mean,
it.
if we have the capability of using comments to at least start it. I mean, it might be nice.
Yeah.
You could ask for like community contributors to help document some of these methods, because I know that documentation MRs are like pretty big in like the get started in open source, like help us with documentation is something that I've heard a lot when
Yeah.
I was not contributing to open source because I was too nervous to start anywhere. Like start with docs. It's not that bad.
I only contribute to open source when I get paid to do it. That's why I'm here at GitLab. I'm joking.
I
Yeah,
wanted to, and then I was always too nervous, and then I had kids. Now I'm too busy and too tired. So,
yeah.
um,
I I think
it's really cool though.
what's missing is, so like we can have the documentation for functions here. I
Yeah,
think we'll need to somehow like flag it as like, this is not a thing, but like
yeah.
this this is a utility. Like
Oh, so you
everything that's
can't.
commented, don't include everything that's commented. Only include the things that are specifically meant for reusability.
Mm, mhm,
And then maybe then we can also have like more categories or something like that of like
yeah.
things that we can put it into. I think that'll be helpful at the findability of all the reusable things in our code base.
Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, I don't know how many utility, because it looked like there was a utility folder in the
yeah,
how many
there
things
is.
are in there.
Good old libutils
Mm,
large.
yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, you just start with one and keep chunking away at it.
Yep, yep. But it like, I like, I think I used to feel like util modules isn't good, or like utility
Mm,
functions weren't, but as long as they're like pure functions that are kind of outside of any domain, um it's pretty
yeah,
nice just having a whole list of, these are
yeah.
pure functions I can keep reusing to kind of expand upon my language. But yeah, no, I wanted to share this, and this kind of thing came up multiple times in code review, where it's like, oh, we got another way, pre-existing way. We have,
Yeah.
there's an
I
MR.
think that's like the key is when I'm like, how do I do this? I'm not sure. People often go looking in the code, and the more that you're able to convert things over to like using the consistent utility, if this is the way we want to do things, I feel like it will slowly increase the percentage of people that are like, oh, how do I know this UI piece works the way I want. Let me go look at what that code does.
Yeah,
And so, ah, that was an interesting one.
cool. Thanks for.
Yeah, I feel like as a new developer here, I was constantly looking at like, how do they do things here? Having that override utility was the one I remember first learning about and being like, okay. I suggest it to people all the time in reviews. I'm like, please add this. Because
Yeah.
it's like a little safety net.
For like, is this like the uh override directive that we like add?
Yeah, it just makes sure that you're overriding the way
Yeah,
that you think
super
you
helpful.
are.
Yeah,
Very helpful.
yeah,
And there are times where like I'm like, oh, I added it and it told me my code wasn't working the way I thought. And I'm like, oh, thank you, override
yeah.
utility. I appreciate you. So
Because we like regularly, we don't regularly test as we're developing on EE and CE.
yeah,
So when we have things pointing to a function that's named on EE, we want to make sure that CE is the right thing. And
yeah.
yeah, that's having that kind of check. That's really cool. That is helpful.
I had one I wanted to ask. Well, I already have in my head what I'm going to respond back with, but I'm also trying to give a diff for the person. Okay. About So I linked, I guess I can share my screen. Let me, oh, my screen's a mess, but it's okay. I'll open it and share. I'll go over it. Okay. So I was reviewing an MR and I went through this late in my day, so I was pretty tired. It's a backend MR that's for adding it's like migrating Elasticsearch data for our code index, which is all the Gitly blobs, and it makes it difficult because we end up having to do everything mostly outside of Gitly. We don't want to like touch Gitly when we're trying to update data because well, I don't know how long that would take to re-index all of the code that we have indexed in Elastic, and B, it might have a very bad effect on the performance of Gitly if we try to do that. So this isn't about that particular part of it, but I was looking through the code and I came on this change. I don't know how to hide this thing. Maybe I can't. I don't know. It's fine. So there was a equal method that was added. And at first I was like, I don't see this equal method being used in the code. Like, why did we add this? Because that was the original comment I left because I was late. And I'm like, why do we have this equal method added if it's not being used? And then I came back, I was looking a little bit further and I realized it was to support an issue in one of the specs where, let me see, yeah, this one, yes. So we are trying to add the capability of filtering out archived projects from the results. So if you archive a project and you search for code in like a group, that archived project won't come back. It kind of makes doing testing a little bit difficult sometimes because especially with the blobs, like they're not active record objects.
Yeah.
They are really created as a found blob, which is a plain old Ruby object that's built off of stuff that we have in Elastic. Hopefully that makes sense. And I think after I looked at this further, I think what was happening is we're trying to check search results saying, hey, we searched with the archive flag added, so it should give me back an archive result. How do I know I'm getting back what I'm supposed to get back? And the equality stuff is not passing. So I think what this person was trying to do was change what equal does so that the test would pass. And I was like, oh, so like none of the tests fail after that change. But I was really nervous about like, this seems risky because this found blob has, it has a lot of things that it gets initialized with.
Yeah.
And changing what makes it equal, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's equal. And the reason why that makes me nervous is like, we're having a lot of indexing integrity issues where someone's like, my file is not up to date in the search results, or I click on it in the search results and it's actually gone, something like that. So like making sure that the content of what's in there, I think is like, oh, this is like, I was nervous about changing that because we've been having so many issues with like, you know, we're essentially like a consumer of all the stuff in Gitly in the database and making sure things are actually equal.
Yeah.
So that was going to be my, I guess, like, I don't know, do we override things like this often in GitLab? I'm not sure.
That's a good question. But I think the real like alias method :double equals. I'd love to see how many of those we have.
No idea.
Well, maybe love isn't the right word.
No, I will be interested. I did look to see if there's any, I didn't look about the alias part. Okay, we have,
Wow, we do it a lot.
it's not that many, right? Well, 8. I don't know. I feel like it's
I'm searching, I'm sending on the Zoom chat. This is
okay.
what I'm searching for in like VS Code.
Oh. Yeah, I found 8, but maybe you found more.
I think I see 21.
Oh, that's still not that many.
Yeah, it's not a lot. I do see like it's for repository,
Mhm.
and I guess like vulnerability has it in a
Yeah,
weird way.
I guess
Um,
my
but I think I agree with what you're saying is that we shouldn't touch production code. We shouldn't complicate production code for the sake of test code.
yeah, I guess that's the biggest thing is like we're fiddling with it because the test is not passing. So this is what I was hoping to work on this morning was like there should be a way to mock something in some way, to use an instance double and say like when this thing is called, because like the problem that's happening is not that the things aren't equal, it's I think the object IDs are not equal. I was able to get it so that all the fields were equal.
Hmm.
I think that was part of like this the spec when I was looking at it. Like if you look at how this is built in the code, this was not an exact match. And so when I was looking at what the search results are giving me back and what is in this object, it's not the same. But also I feel like there's some like Ruby magic that happens when you get active record objects and it says, is this active record object equal to this other one? Like I have project that I found by ID1 and I have a where clause that gave me back project ID1. Somehow it knows those are the same thing. Because these are like plain old Ruby objects,
Yeah.
they're not the
I like that.
same.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think my thought was, maybe like try to do some creative stubbing to make it work. And that I'm working down that path now, but I guess, yeah, I was just trying to be like, how do I phrase it? And I think what you said was really key. It's like, let's not update the code in support of a failing test. We would rather try to get the test working.
Yeah.
Okay. I really like that.
And what'd be
I'm like, I
interesting
don't
is,
know, like this, and it also seems scary because we're changing like the equality thing,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
100%.
seems scary to me.
Well, like coming from Java land, it was a while ago, but like whenever you change equality, don't you also have to change like the hash function of the thing too? Like, do you
I've
know what I'm
never
talking?
changed an equality method anywhere in my life. I don't know. I would have to Google it.
No, I mean,
Um,
yeah, I just it can definitely have more of a side
it just,
effect than
yeah,
what the original intent of just getting the test to pass can
yeah,
have. And so it's like, is there any way we can just isolate this to just the test would be great. Yeah, that's a good catch.
yeah. I mean, if that doesn't work, I'm honestly like inclined to say we have this include examples. This is what's used to test everything.
Yeah,
If I can't get it working, I'm literally inclined to say, let's not use this example. We'll find a different way to write this test and make it so that we don't have to like like even if we have to copy it in and just change what the contexts are doing.
right.
Because blobs are like, I say blobs, but like the code stuff is like it's all different.
Right.
It
But
yeah.
like maybe in that context itself, like could we just change it to compare IDs instead of objects?
Yeah, that would be my thought. That's like, okay, we just want to make sure that
I'm saying like in the in the
oh,
example itself,
I
like
don't know. It's very base. Let me look at I'll put my code up. Hold on. 10,000 things that I'm trying to do, but if you open up, oh, I already have it open. How smart of me.
oh,
Okay. So this example is like super basic. This is all it is make a search. Does it include the archive results? Change the field. Now, does it include the archive results? Turn the feature flag off. That's supposed to like make it, behave. And so I think this is the part where we're running into issues when it's not a
You can't
database record.
Right. But I'm saying, that totally makes sense. From here, though, it's like, I think a very brute force way of doing this would be like, okay, we're gonna do results objects, and then but we'll map to ID.
Oh, like change all of them so that they just
We'll
work.
map to ID and then to include ID. And so it's like, if we really want to do the ID check, and if that's what active record stuff is doing anyways, it's like, that works.
I'll have to look. This like found blob is a very strange object. Oh, I don't know if it has an ID here, but I don't know if I don't know why this has an ID. I don't know. I'll have to look and see. I don't think it has IDs.
How interesting. That's really interesting. If the ID actually isn't ever set, but then we check.
I don't think
quality thing to compare IDs.
Oh yeah.
That means that all found blobs would equal each other.
Yeah. Like how you tell, to me, how I want to know something's equal is that, I mean, the person that did this, they did a good job trying to check. They're like checking it's the same path. They're checking that the project and the group is the same. But also the content, to me, the content of the result that's returned is important because that's what's being displayed to the user. So that data piece should also be checked. I have
because doesn't it, but so correct me if I'm wrong, but like found blob, like you said the ref, they're comparing the ref as well.
Well, I already deleted the code from here. Hold on. So I was trying to test what happens if I deleted it. They are looking at the ref.
So ref and
project ID.
So the interesting thing is this would fail on possibly things that should pass. That's true, because you could have coming from a ref, which is the commit hash, and then coming from a tag, which are actually technically the same thing.
Oh.
But this would fail.
Okay.
So it's a hard problem we probably don't want to make assumptions on.
Yeah. And this particular file is used in CE search and EE search. I also don't know, it is under lib GitLab search, but I don't know if it's used anywhere else. Like just because it's under search doesn't mean it's not like used when I'm searching through the repository in another manner. Yeah, I don't know. This whole, I guess it's like this, I don't know if this constitutes as like monkey patching, but always when it's like I feel like it's just the far reachingness of a change is where I get like a little like queasy when I'm thinking about like, could this cause problems? And then how hard would it be to debug if this caused an issue? Like,
really hard. If you're like, why is this div triple equals returning true? They're clearly not the same. If that would be really, really difficult.
Yeah. So I think I was just going to err on the side of let's find a way to rewrite the spec, whether it's what you suggested, which is rewrite the whole thing to make it work for all types of search results, which might be a lot easier than the crazy mocking that I'm trying. I was just like, how do I get this thing to work? And I wanted to be able to give them a diff.
That would be interesting too, because you're right. Active record clearly does something there. So that would be interesting.
It does something. It knows.
It knows.
I don't know how it knows, but it knows.
That's interesting. Cool. Yeah, no, that's a good problem. It's interesting to note this is only 4 lines of code.
Yeah.
Like it's easy. And then out of the largest file here, I mean, you have really large.
This is the this is a test, and then the migration itself is, the migrations are wild. I didn't even get a chance to check this yet because I wanted to address, well, I looked at this and I know this is based off of other migrations that are like very similar. So I wasn't as worried about this, but for these kind of things, I normally do run them down, bring them down and test them locally. Because we really, for the Elasticsearch migrations, we only have ourselves and we have some staging and then it goes to production. So I like to make sure they run and complete locally. What's crazy
Yeah.
is like these batch sizes so big. So I often come down when I pull these down is I muck with this stuff and make it so that it will run in batching like it would in production. If
So
you
you're
run this
making it much
locally,
smaller.
just yeah, if you run this
Yeah.
locally, it will just run once and then be done. But I sometimes will come in and be like batch size of 2 and max projects of like 1 so that I see it go through slower and watch it actually work.
That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
I mean,
interesting.
staging has data too, but it's
Yeah.
not as much.
Not
So
definitely not as much. Yeah. But like I think it's just interesting to, you said you're like at the end of your day,
yeah.
like you see an MR and like it's really easy to see some lines of code and being like, okay, well this just in, I don't think even consciously, you're just like,
Something's funky.
this is what I have to
Yeah.
focus on.
Yeah.
And but in reality, it's like get every single line. You gotta at least read it and follow the little voice of like, I don't know.
Well, I think the first question I had with this, which I wish I would have left it up for you, which is this isn't being used anywhere. Can you help point to me where it's being used?
So
Like it
but you
completely
took it, you
missed.
played, yeah, right.
Well, I
But
was like, I don't see this equal method being used anywhere. Like, I don't understand why this is. And I just left the note and went back to like look through other stuff because I kind
yeah,
of like glanced at everything, left some notes, and was like, okay, I'll go back and look. And maybe like I missed it because it was late in the day and I was like, I'm tired. I also didn't want to finish the review without providing like some sort of path forward because
yeah,
I feel like already this was a hard problem and they probably like worked pretty hard to get it into the state. So
yeah,
I'll prefer to give some idea and be like, here, what do you think about this? And then like it's working already. I don't
yeah.
know if that's too far, but like I don't know what else to do.
I would time box yourself to do it. Like if you can, I would just time box yourself. So
Yeah.
I try to do
Okay.
that. And then if I run out of time, I set a 10-minute timer for me. And if I run out of
10
that,
minutes.
well, okay, let me clarify. I set a 10-minute timer and then I don't realize how many times I hit the snooze button on it.
Okay.
So it's almost like I didn't set a time. Let's be real here.
Okay. I was like 10 minutes. I actually was looking at this yesterday and then, the daycare pickup timer went off and I was like, I gotta go.
That's when you can't
So
snooze. Can't
well,
snooze that one.
that's why I didn't, yeah, I didn't even finish the review and I was like, I don't want to finish this because I'm not done and I don't know what the right path forward is. But I think you gave me a really good potential
Cool.
easier idea, which is to switch the other piece of it.
Yeah, I mean, and that would be, I think that'd be interesting. I'd love to hear more like, was this really just added for tests? It seems like that is, but I'd
Yeah.
be curious if maybe there was another intention behind it. I know though that there's like people coming from different language backgrounds. Like there's some languages that just lend itself like that
Oh,
override
like being like this
is
is
very common approach to problems. And
um
that was my experience with Java a little bit, but I think it ends up as a nightmare. It's
yeah, I mean I only work in Java with Spring Boot. I don't remember overriding equals, but we weren't working with any like crazy different levels of objects and everything was microservices, so it's kind of like very boxed in. You
yeah,
were really only working with the one type of data that you had and you had just IDs for everything else.
right. It
um
was like whenever you needed to like, I remember having to, oh, we're gonna put something in a hash set or like a hash map, and
oh
gonna be hashed and how it's gonna be compared to be equal was important. But
yeah.
I this was before I started to really appreciate explicit and simplicity in code, and I was like, everything
Yeah.
was, you feel like you could encapsulate everything into the object,
Yeah.
which is very difficult to do. But yeah, that's an interesting problem. Cool catch. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, thank you
I think
for
I think we're kind of at time. We
Yeah.
we can try to squeeze the last remaining minutes, but
That's fine.
I've got we got front end pair programming coming up in a little bit, and I think I'm
Okay.
gonna grab some coffee. I'm
That's a
I'm
good
feeling
idea.
my power deplete. All right. I'll catch you later, Terry. Thanks so
Yeah,
much.
thank you
Oh,
so
and hey,
much. Have a good day.
congratulations on the promotion. I saw
Oh,
that,
yeah,
I think,
thank
a while
you.
ago, and I was really excited to see that. So
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, I hope you have a good rest of your Friday.
Thanks, you too.
All
Bye.
right, bye.